The Stanley Cup playoffs start tonight with Winnipeg and St. Louis and Dallas and Colorado. Now let's go on these first round previews with me, but I'm going to try to do this in one take. Here we go. So tonight we got Winnipeg and the St. Louis Blues. The Blues are going to the Canadian Life Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba. This is going to be a great series, in my opinion. The hottest team all year versus the hottest team since the Four Nations. I still think Winnipeg in 6. I think Connor Hellebuyck's going to be too much. And St. Louis had a nice run. However, I still can't get over people comparing them to the 2019 team. And you know me as a Bruins fan, I do not like remembering the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. So that's why I'm cheering for the Jets. Jets in 6. I mean, regardless, I don't care who wins that series. I would love to see the Jets go on a deep playoff run for the first time in the series, their life, because I don't think they made the conference finals for what I can remember. 2018 maybe? I don't think so. I don't know why I don't remember. Connor Hellebuyck's due though. Even though he's not that good of a playoff performer. Next up, we got the Dallas Stars with the Colorado Avalanche. The Rantanen Bowl. This is going to be an amazing, probably the second best first round matchup. Best one. I'll get to that in a minute. This is going to be a great, amazing, outstanding, fantastic series. Mikko Rantanen for taking on his old team, not the Hurricane, the Avalanche. Who do I think will win this? I think Dallas. I think Dallas is way too stacked. They got depth from top to bottom, even though their defense is kind of lacking. Other than that, Dallas is an absolutely stellar team. However, Jason Robinson will be out week to week. Hopefully he can come back. And I have the Dallas Stars in seven games. It's going to be an absolutely amazing series. But my honest opinion, I don't care who wins any of these series, except for Ottawa and Toronto. I'll get to that in a minute. Next up in the West, we got Minnesota versus Vegas. I think Minnesota is going to get swept. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov are probably going to be back for Game 1. However, I think Vegas is way too stacked. So Vegas in 5. I think they're going to gentlemen sweep the Minnesota Wild. And lastly in the West, we have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the LA Kings for the 4th time in a row. I think LA's due. I think Oilers are too weak without McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid's probably going to come back for Game 1 of the playoffs. But honestly, take out McDavid. If you saw like McDavid and Draisaitl, the Oilers are basically just nothing. They're like barely a top 5 team in the West. So I think the Kings are due. I think the Kings in 6. Next up, head over to the East. We have Toronto versus Ottawa. Battle of Ontario. However, the Ottawa Senators have never beaten the Leafs in the playoffs. Going back to the early 2000s. However, I think the Senators will defeat the Leafs because I think the Leafs are still... See, think about this. The Leafs are playing against 1.5 teams. They're playing the Senators and themselves. And the Senators are just playing one team. So, honestly, who do I think wins? I think the Senators win in 6. I think they win at home. I honestly do think the Leafs will not make it past the first round, even though they're having an absolutely amazing season. Don't get it twisted. Leafs are a very, very good team. However, as history has shown us, even when the Leafs have beaten the Senators always in the playoffs, I think the Senators can beat the Leafs because they swept the Leafs in the season series. So I got the Senators in 6. Next up, we have the Battle of Florida. The Panthers taking on the Lightning. I think this is going to be a great series. Like, all these series are going to be great. People who say these playoffs are boring, obviously do not watch hockey. And I know the Bruins are in it, but it's going to be an amazing playoffs. Anyways, who do I think is going to win? I think I would love to see Tampa Bay beat Florida, but I think Florida will be way too much for Tampa Bay. I mean, they are the defending Cup champions. However, Paul Maurice did say everyone's going to be healthy for Game 1. So if everyone's healthy for the whole series, it's going to be Florida in 5, just like last year, even though Tampa Bay is still a strong team. And next up, we have Washington versus Montreal. Montreal, honestly, just happy to be in the playoffs. However, as I said this a lot, Washington is quite the wagon this year. However, I think they're overachieving a lot, folks. This is going to be a tough series. Here's my hot take. Look, I love Ovechkin as much as like next guy, but I think Montreal can be the Capitals. So I got Montreal in 7. I know that's really kind of a hot take, but I think Montreal will be the Capitals in 7 because, I think the Capitals are out of gas. Look, I love the Capitals. I love Alex Ovechkin. But, look, if I'm trying to be realistic here, it's Habs in 7. I'm sorry. Last up, we got probably, in my opinion, probably the most boring... Look, no disrespect, but probably the most boring matchup of the playoffs. New Jersey versus Carolina. I think Carolina's going to beat the Devils in 6 games. They're a deep team. However, they haven't made it to the Stanley Cup Finals since 2006. Always making it to the conference finals. Always getting swept. Brutal. However, I think this year's different. It's not. It honestly isn't. But, who's going to win the series? Probably Carolina. New Jersey. The finally have stellar defense and goaltending. First time since the Martin Brodeur era. You know, Backstrom. Not Backstrom. What's his face? Markstrom. Sorry, Jacob Markstrom, Doug Hamilton. They're both back. I want to say Nicholas Backstrom. Well, he's retired. Minnesota Wild legend Nicholas Backstrom, the goalie, not the player. Anyways, yeah, so I got Carolina at 6. And that is the first round. The first round preview in one take. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you guys later. Peace.